I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. While previous presidents have made this a major campaign promise, they failed to deliver. Today, I am delivering.
Donald Trump's decision upended decades of U.S. diplomacy. Both Israelis and Palestinians lay claim to Jerusalem, and Trump's predecessors did not want to place peace negotiations at risk. Palestinians responded with anger. In the wake of the announcement, Palestinian protesters clashed with Israeli security forces. The decision was welcomed by many Israelis who've always regarded Jerusalem as Israel's eternal and undivided capital. For Palestinians, the move means giving up hope that East Jerusalem would be the capital of a future Palestinian state. The US appears to have extended formal recognition of Israel's occupation of the West Bank and its annexation of East Jerusalem, which began more than 50 years ago. In 1949, after the Arab-Israeli War, a line of demarcation was drawn in green ink under the Armistice Agreements. The line divided the land and the city of Jerusalem into east and west, forming the de facto border of the new state of Israel. Since its victory in the Six-Day War of 1967, Israel has repeatedly redrawn this line, mainly through the expansion of Jewish settlements in the West Bank. Several times a week, Eyal Ofek goes to the Green Line at the border crossing situated between the Palestinian town of Jenin and the Israeli town of Afula.
Ido, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
We're almost there.
Eyal is a volunteer for an Israeli NGO. He brings Palestinians who need medical treatment to hospitals in Israel.
Hello, how are you? Which one of you is Ahmad? And what's your name? Hello, Abu Is. Was it you I spoke to yesterday?
Abu Is lives in the West Bank behind the Green Line. His children are sick but can't get the help they need there.
We will go to Rambam to making the area for the two kids. Okay. Why? Because they have kidney failure. I'm taking the Elise every day.
Most Palestinians need a permit to enter Israel from the West Bank, and they can't take their cars.
How many are you? Okay, good. One car to Megiddo and one for there. He's going to bring 5 people to Ramban Hospital in Haifa. We need 2 cars today. They'll go with me. They have a special permit because they have to go to Haifa every day for treatment. They drive there and back every single day. They get up at 3:30 every morning, wait an hour on the Palestinian side, cross the Green Line, are checked on the Israeli side, and finally arrive here. We have to hurry. There's a storm coming in.
Others waiting at the border this morning are relatives of Palestinians who are in prison in Israel.
These buses are full of families who want to visit prisoners all across Israel. They get a permit once a month. Like me, my son is in prison in Hadarim.
Here, the Green Line looks like a real border, equipped with barbed wire and guard towers. But it's under the control of a single state, Israel.
Israel handles security. Area A is in the interior and is formally under the control of the Palestinian Authority. But areas B and C belong to Israel. It's not the same thing. Israel is a state, and the Palestinian Authority is, how should I put it, not a state.
Palestine isn't an actual state.
It wasn't always this way. Until June 1967, the Green Line divided two actual states, Israel and Jordan. It was a hard border and a hostile one, which ran from Galilee in the north to the Judean desert in the south, slicing through Jerusalem. After the Six-Day War, everything changed.
Do you hear? They're summoning to prayer. Allahu Akbar, come to pray. There is no God but Allah. What happened in 1967? The Israeli army advanced in their armored tanks. I don't want to talk about who started it and who was responsible right now. The fact is that the Israeli army conquered Zbuba and Jenin, and for exactly 50 years we've been occupying an area that belongs to another people, for far too long.
After the Six-Day War, Israel began constructing Jewish settlements in the West Bank on the other side of the Green Line. Today, there are dozens of them. One is Alfei Manash, about 15 kilometers from Tel Aviv. Sarah Michaelis moved here in 1984.
Over there you can see Tel Aviv, Ramat Gan, Herzliya, and Netanya very clearly. Even Ein Tut in the north. So you can see how small our state really is. There's no way to say exactly this is where the Green Line is. You can't trace it with your finger on a map and say this is the Green Line. In any case, we're outside the Green Line here, but inside the separation barrier. Ariel Sharon incorporated Alfei Menashe inside the separation barrier, and everyone agrees that the settlement belongs to the State of Israel.
Sarah is handling the sale of several properties here.
Look, all the apartments have a terrace with a wonderful view.
Tel Aviv's population is soaring, and so are property prices. More and more young families are looking for apartments across the Green Line.
Nice to meet you. I'm Sarah. Let's go to the second floor. This is a typical four-room apartment. Here's the kitchen, there's the bath.
Right now, the couple live in Netanya, a city on the coast, a 20-minute drive away.
Prices here are much lower than in Netanya. For what you'd pay here, you'd only be able to afford a very small apartment in an older building there.
The husband is hesitant. For him, the Green Line is still a border.
On your drive over here, did you feel like you were crossing a border?
We drove through Arab villages, saw their donkeys. The feeling on the drive over here, I can't take it.
I'm not afraid. Something could happen to you anywhere, in Alfei Manash or in Netanya. That's how I see it.
She just wants to live near her sister.
For the young woman's father, the Green Line doesn't figure in the decision at all.
I don't know if things ever change. Maybe it will always be this way. I believe this settlement will continue to expand. The Arabs, they want everything, all of Israel, and not just the land behind the Green Line. If we gave them that land, they'd demand our entire state. There'd be no end to it.
Today, some 500,000 Israelis live in the West Bank, east of the Green Line. And some 1.5 million Palestinians live inside Israel proper. Israeli Arabs like Abu Sneni and his family.
Everything you see here, all these houses, belong to a single extended family. This is my father, the oldest man of the entire family. He's the firstborn, the head of the family. Before 1948, there was no state of Israel, and of course no border either. Let's go on the roof. From there you can see the entire region.
The Green Line separates Abu Snani's family from their in-laws in Kalkilia. The Palestinian city is just a kilometre away on the other side of the highway that connects Israel's north and south.
After they built the wall, a border post was set up there. It's back there, by Alfei Menashe. Behind that hill, we have family in Kalkilia. We talk to them on the phone, and when we want to visit them, we need to make a huge detour. They aren't permitted to visit us, so we aren't very close to them. The family has been split in two.
Abu Snani and his family are glad they live on this side of the Green Line. Their construction company benefits from Israel's affluence. And unlike the West Bank Palestinians, they're Israeli citizens.
The Palestinians don't even have 10% of the freedom we have. They have all sorts of restrictions over there. They need a permit for everything, for every little thing. I'm free. I own a company, and I can work where I want.
In the 1990s, many hoped the Oslo Accords would pave the way for a future Palestinian state within the Green Line. But those hopes did not come to be. The crossing near the West Bank town of Nilen is among the busiest. Long before dawn, these Palestinian workers are making the trek to Israel. To stop the wave of violence during the Second Intifada, after 2003, Israel began to erect barriers on and near the Green Line. For tens of thousands of Palestinians, crossing the barrier is part of their daily routine. Traders sell goods near the barrier.
This is the start of the week, so it's very busy, and the controls are very strict. Some people even sleep here, so they can be among the first to cross the border in the morning.
The workers slowly advance to the checkpoint. It's a tedious but unavoidable routine.
We have to work in Israel. We have no choice. There are no jobs in the Palestinian territories. It's not a question of money. Right now, I earn 50 euros a day. If I found a job in Ramallah for 25 euros a day, I'd take it. It would be better for me. Of course, I'm not happy with this. It feels like I'm traveling between countries, not between cities. I'd rather work in Ramallah, in my own country. Everyone will tell you the same thing. How do I feel about this? My own country is off limits for me. How can I be happy about that?
Like at Jenin, this crossing point can only be traversed on foot. On the other side, workers are picked up in cars, vans and buses owned by Jewish or Arab companies. Most of the workers are employed on large construction sites. Abu Tsiad isn't among them. He refuses to cross the Green Line for work.
This here is not a border. All of Palestine is our soil. The land of 1948 and the areas that were conquered in 1967, it all belongs to us. There is no border, because a border separates two states. This here is Palestinian soil, and there is only one country here, Palestine. That back there is a barrier, not a border, and that barrier exists only to humiliate us Palestinians.
Such refusal to recognize the Green Line as a border is one of the reasons that previous peace initiatives failed. For many Palestinians, this division is a betrayal.
That's what I believe, and all Palestinians believe. Those guys sit around and negotiate, raking in so much money all the while that they're happy for it to go on forever.
The Palestinian economy is dependent on Israel, not just for jobs, but also for goods.
This juice comes from Israel, and so does this soft drink. But all the other products are Arab. They force us to buy Israeli products. Everything we consume in Palestinian homes comes from Israel. They charge tariffs, and they still expect us to be grateful. We have no choice. I don't want to say that God commands us to live with them side by side. But what should we do? We have no aircraft, no harbor, no access to the ocean. It all belongs to Israel.
Two peoples living side by side in a small corner of land. Many Jews now live in the West Bank, and Arabs in Israel, linked by close economic ties. The Green Line cuts through this complex region and through the city of Jerusalem. Until 1967, the Green Line divided the city into two. Israel controlled West Jerusalem, Jordan the east. The border ran right down this road in the Abu Tor neighborhood, right in front of Him Hijazi's house.
It didn't look the way it does today. No one was allowed to come here. Israeli soldiers kept guard. They shot at your grandfather while I was out harvesting grapes. Everything was sealed off, you understand? No one lived here. Our house was the only one.
The neighborhood was the scene of battles between Israeli and Jordanian soldiers. The Green Line was impassable. Sometimes Jews and Arabs spoke to each other, separated by barbed wire.
We used to bake bread and it smelled wonderful. I remember Rachel, a Jewish woman who was pregnant. She loved the fragrance, and sometimes I threw her some bread over the fence.
On June 7th, 1967, the third day of the Six-Day War, the Israeli army annexed East Jerusalem. Israel has since tried to erase every trace of the Green Line. Officially, Jerusalem is reunified, and Abu Tor is also no longer divided into two.
That was 1967. The Israeli army entered our neighborhood and arrested all the men. Here's a picture in the newspaper. At first it was very difficult, but then we felt we'd been freed. No one was afraid anymore. Not us and not them. We weren't even afraid of the Israeli army. Everything was normal.
The Green Line that ran through the middle of Abu Tor was the Armistice Line, drawn in green ink on a military map after the Arab-Israeli War of 1948. Tour guide Shmuel Boba knows the history of his neighborhood well.
Everywhere in the world, borders have some sort of logic to them. They reflect geographic factors of the population. A border can't just run through a courtyard or a neighborhood. That's impossible. Why is the Green Line not a viable border? Because it's not a proper border. It only marked the spot where, on a particular day, the fighting stopped. It could just as easily have been somewhere else. Take Abu Tor. Today, both Jews and Arabs live there. Where would we put up a border? Would we tell Arabs in the upper district to move down there and build a wall between the houses? What's the logic in that? Would a border like that be viable? Of course not. It's impossible.
For half a century, Arabs and Jews have lived here side by side in Abu Tor, one of Jerusalem's few mixed neighborhoods. But even here, Arabs and Jews tend not to mingle. Him Hijazi's grandsons prefer to play soccer with other Arab children.
They created a team with Arabs and Jews so that we would mix. And we play together, wearing jerseys in the same color. We practice together, and we've played in Kataman, and even in Turkey. We want to get along with them, as long as they don't hit us or do anything bad to us. But I want them to leave our country. This country used to belong only to us. I'm not saying I don't want to play with them. We enjoy it. But they took our homes away from us, and that hurts.
East Jerusalem is now home to as many Israelis as Palestinians. They encounter each other every day, especially in the Old City, home to the Temple Mount, which Arabs call Haram al-Sharif, and the Western Wall. Every Monday and Thursday, Roy gives tours of the Western Wall to families from across Israel. This Israeli family from Tel Aviv are celebrating their son's bar mitzvah. At 13, he's attained religious maturity.
Jerusalem is our holy city. Our temple was here. This is where King David was crowned. And his son built the temple. Our roots are here. Jerusalem belongs to the people of Israel, to the Jewish people. And the Western Wall is part of the temple. That's why we come here. There is nothing more impressive, nothing more profound.
Whatever their political conviction, religious observance or place of residence, Israelis feel an emotional tie to Jerusalem. For 19 years, from 1948 to 1967, the Green Line prevented Jews from visiting the holiest site in Judaism.
Until 1967, Jews didn't have access to the Western Wall. Back then, we could only go there by risking great danger. But thank God, after 1967, the access road was opened. The area in front of the Western Wall was expanded, and the people of Israel were permitted to visit it, in large numbers, and legally. That makes us very happy. My grandfather and my grandfather's grandfather would never have dared to dream this. Well, they dreamt it, but they never believed it. We have the great fortune to live here, and we should cherish and above all defend that.
Every year, Jewish Israelis celebrate Jerusalem Day, a national holiday commemorating the reunification of the city in 1967. Tens of thousands of mainly traditionally observant Jews cross the Green Line and gather in East Jerusalem. For many Arab residents, the gathering is a provocation. Security forces separate the two groups. Layali Hamoudi is too young to remember Arab East Jerusalem and barely knows where the Green Line once ran. But she has seen how more and more Arabs are being displaced.
We're not here to demonstrate, but to defend our presence in Jerusalem. They call it the reunified Jerusalem, but Jerusalem is an Arab city. Jerusalem is Palestinian, and they're trying to make the city only Jewish. Now they're even preventing us from entering the city. Anyone who lives outside the city is no longer allowed to visit it. We're just here to defend our basic rights. They use their religion to claim special rights and privileges. They're part of a Zionist movement. They believe their religion gives them the right to conquer Jerusalem. That's why they won't let us pass. Their domination is growing. They treat us like second-class citizens. We're slowly losing our city.
For many Israelis, the Green Line no longer exists, especially in Jerusalem. In 1980, Israel's parliament, the Knesset, declared the city Israel's eternal and indivisible capital. More than 50 years after the Six-Day War, Israel appears to have won another victory: official recognition of Jerusalem as the capital by the US. What will this mean for future peace negotiations? Can a peaceful agreement still be reached? Israelis are cheering, but what about the Palestinians? Jerusalem, December 2017. Is this the quiet before the storm? East Jerusalem and the West Bank are boarded up. The Palestinians called a general strike in protest. The dream of their own state seems more distant than ever before. Is the two-state solution now out of reach? Once again, images of violence and hatred are making headlines. Jerusalem, the eternal and indivisible city, is still struggling to find peace.